Before you could speak, before you learned how to talk, you had already learned how to understand and perceive love. Today, we're looking at attachment theory and what that means for you in your relationships today as an adult. All right. So, attachment theory is how our love gets wired, how we understand love, how we feel secure in relationships or feel insecure in relationships. So, looking at the theory, going back to the theory, John Bowlby started attachment theory back in the late 1960s. So, he founded attachment theory. He understood attachment theory in the way that a baby needs a parent, needs a primary caregiver to love, to understand love. And this is a fundamental human need. All right. So, what he discovered was that babies actually need this. They don't just need their nappy or diaper changed. They don't just need food. Okay. They don't just need sleep, but they actually need love. And if you look back at the Romanian orphanage study, if you're interested in understanding what a severe neglect situation how that manifests, look at the Romanian orphanage study. There's lots of videos on YouTube about this study. I remember watching it when I was a child and just being horrified because within Romanian orphanages, they did studies showing that these children, yes, they had nappy changes at different intervals. Yes, they had food at different intervals. Yes, they had sleep. Obviously, they had their naps and they had sleep so they could physically grow through food, nourishment, sleep, all that kind of stuff. However, what they lacked was love. And how did that manifest? Well, they became intellectually disabled and physically disabled. All right. The lack of love is huge. So John Bowlby founded this. John Bowlby understood this as a theory. Then we have Mary Ainsworth, who looked at this and did the strange situation experiment to understand different types of attachment. So Mary Ainsworth found three different types of attachment. So she found secure attachment, avoidant attachment, and anxious attachment. Then a few years later, we have Mary Main, who came on the scene, thought this is fantastic, looked at the strange situation, looked at that, and then went, I think there's one more here. So she extended the theory and added disorganized attachment. All right. So she looked at it and said, no, there's definitely one more for children who do have severe neglect, severe trauma, severe complex childhood trauma. They get disorganized attachment. Then, after that, we're going to Edward Tronicky. Okay. So if you look at Edward Tronicky, I highly recommend watching one of his videos. I'm going to put a video, what it looks like right here. Edward Tronicky did the still face experiment in the 1980s. All right. The still face experiment was huge. You could actually see on video the child's reaction when they weren't having that interaction with their mother in that present moment. Okay. So you can watch this play out in about 90 seconds. The mother is with the baby going, goo goo gaga. Oh, what's this? Oh, blah, 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 blah. They're having the mirror neurons firing. They're talking together. They're having that interaction. They're having that serve and serve and respond. You like tennis, you're going back and forth. These are your mirror neurons firing up. Okay. So they're having a good interaction together. And then the mother turns away and she has a very still face. And the baby's crying, and the baby gets so physically distressed. You can see the baby getting distressed because the mother is not attending to their needs. The mother is not attending to their actual needs to have that connection. So the attachment is about that connection. So the still face experiment, that is the one that you can actually see it. And I find it phenomenal for attachment theory. Highly recommend watching the video if you have time. It's only a few minutes, that video, and it's great. All right, so what is attachment theory and how does it relate to you in the present moment with your relationships? So let's dive in. So, we're looking at love and understanding ourself and our attachment with other people. So, we have if we have Secure attachment, we have a positive view of self. So this is a view of self line, and we have a positive view of others. We understand others to be loving and caring and kind, and we understand ourselves to be loving and caring and kind. Therefore, we can attract relationships together that are loving and caring and kind and have secure, wonderful relationships. Now, statistically speaking, obviously the statistics are going to vary according to the different studies. But from what I can understand, it's about 50% of people are securely attached. 50%, which leaves the other 50% on this side. I don't want to, correlation is not causation, but 50% of people get divorced, right? So when we're looking at, that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's because of attachment styles, but it's something to look at. It's something to understand within yourself. You need to really understand your own attachment. You might be a securely attached person. You might have had fantastic caregivers early on. Those very early attachments are depicting how you connect with others today. So you might have securely attached relationships. You might feel good. However, you might have married somebody who's an avoidant. And I think it's about 25%, 25% of people are avoidant. Then about 15 to 20% are anxious. Let's say 20%, 25%, and then 5%. That's roughly speaking what the statistics are showing. Okay. So avoidant is the most next common. So you might be married to an avoidant, all right? And you might be like, why are they pushing me away? Why, don't they want to talk about their feelings? Why don't they lean on me? I love to tell them all of my problems. I love to share experiences, but they find that quite uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable with that emotional connection. They're uncomfortable with that closeness. All right. So when you're securely attached, positive, positive, you think I am worthy and others are available for me. Okay, they're available to me. I am free to have love. I'm free to give love. I'm free to receive love. You're secure. Then we look at avoidant, or sometimes we call it dismissive avoidant. All right. This is a positive sense of self, but a negative view of others. Now, remember, if you're married to someone like this or you're dating someone like this, it's not that they actually are consciously thinking negative thoughts about you, but deep down at their core, they have a negative view of others. All right. The world, people in general. Okay. So they say, I'm fine, I don't need you. All right. And I think I tended to go down more of this line. And how that manifests is that, yeah, so you like yourself, you're happy to be alone, you're totally independent, you're hyper independent. Okay. And then you have a negative view of others within the world. So I used to say in my 20s, my friend will attest to this. I used to say people are shit. Like people are shit. They're out there. People hurt each other. People are out. It's a dog eat dog world. People are out to hurt each other. And that was my belief in life. That's no longer my belief. I no longer understand humanity in that way. But that was something that I grew up with because I had a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma, so much complex trauma in every single facet. I have 7 out of 10 ACEs. If you want to understand the diverse childhood experiences, go watch one of my other videos. I talk about that. But because of my complex trauma, I had this view of other people that they were negative. Okay, it wasn't specific people. It wasn't saying you specifically are bad, but just in general, humanity. All right. So I became hyper independent and I traveled the world by myself. And I still love being alone. I still love doing my own thing. But that is from my very earliest interactions as a child. Okay. So then we're going to go on this side and we're going to go to anxious. We can go anxious or preoccupied attachment. Okay, so you have a negative view of yourself, but a positive view of others. Okay, so that's opposite of avoidant. So you don't love yourself. You say, I need you. I need you. But are you sure that you want me? Because you don't have a positive view of self. So you're constantly clinging to someone saying, I need you. I love you. Are you sure you want me? Of course you wouldn't want me. Why would you want me? I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And you have that internalized pattern of being anxious and wanting them and needing them, needing someone in that relationship. All right. You might be texting them constantly and they're not texting back straight away. Maybe they're an avoidant and you're an anxious. And then you're saying, oh, but maybe they don't want me. I'm sure they don't want me. Why would they want me? And you have this negative view of yourself. Okay. Then if you are disorganized or fearful, okay, this is when you'll be a disorganized attachment style if you have severe abuse and neglect in your childhood. That's 5% of people. Um, you'll go back and forth between anxious and avoidant. So you have a negative view of yourself and a negative view of other people. All right. So you say, I need you, and I'm terrified of you. I'm terrified of getting close, but I need you. And so it's a very disorganized, very discombobulated attachment style. And only 5% of people have this. And that comes from their very earliest attachments with their caregivers. All right. So our attachment styles come from those very early moments, our childhood, from 0 to 7. That is basically when our styles of attachment are locked in. Doesn't mean they have to be like that forever. You can change. Always in all my videos, you will know that I say, you can change. You can change. You can heal yourself. You heal through awareness. Awareness first, then healing, then the change comes. Okay? Awareness, healing, and then change, right? So we have to understand this. Now, the basic core of our attachments are formed from 0 to 18 months, all right? And they're still operating at 40 years. Some people say that they go up to 0 to 7, the early years. Some people say 0 to 5, 0 to 6, 0 to 7, 0 to 18 are the really, really core. If you are disorganized, it's going to come early, early on, right? So those are the earliest moments. And the thing is, you're like, well, I don't even remember what happened to me at that time. And you might not know, and you might have to ask around and ask some questions. In Dr. Bruce Perry's book, he talks about a boy who became a sociopath as a teenager, and he had an older brother who was a well-functioning human being, was really social, was really good at school. He had his life together, and he's like, how does one brother become, this way, and the other brother is a sociopath who's in juvenile detention and is going to be locked up for a really long time? And so he had to unpack and he had to ask a lot of questions. What he found out was that the older brother, when the older brother, so when the baby brother was born, the older brother was a toddler, all right? And the mom had the baby brother. The baby brother was so colicky, he cried so much as a baby that she decided to leave him at home while she took the older brother out to go to play groups and things like that. She would leave that little baby home for hours by himself, 2, 3, 4 hours, completely alone. Nobody to meet his needs. All right? And then later on, lo and behold, he becomes a sociopath because his attachment was formed 0 to 18 months. All right, going back to my own childhood, I talk about this in other videos and in other ways, but my mom, when I was 4 months old, gave me and my brother, my older brother, to a church to be raised by some church families, well, because she couldn't take care of us. So we were put with different church families for a time, and back and forth and back and forth. So it was a very, very disorganized attachment of who's here to love me. Now, I'm sure people did love me. I'm sure people in the church prayed over me and loved on me and all that kind of stuff. Thank goodness, because my mom was in a catatonic state and was not able to take care of me. Okay? But it made so much sense as I was unpacking trauma, and my mom was like, oh, it makes sense that you want to unpack trauma because of this. And I was like, wait, what? What's that now? What happened when I was 4 months? You gave me away. And she was like, yeah, I've told you this. And I was like, I don't remember you ever talking about this situation. And my brother and sister, when I told them, they were like, wait, what now? What happened? So those are things that you don't remember, but your body remembers. Your body keeps the score of trauma. Okay, go back to the book, Your Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Your body understands that. You have it within your body. You carry that. You carry that understanding. Those early, early, early attachments, those early moments really, really, really affect how you interact today as an adult. Okay? But remember, awareness leads to healing, leads to change. And the most beautiful thing about our brains is that we have neuroplasticity. So you can change your brain. It's constantly changing. We can constantly be changing our brains and healing ourselves. All right. So that's a little bit about attachment. I hope that you understand a little bit more about yourself, or a little bit more about your partner, or about those that you're dating, or even your friends, your best friends, or even within a workplace. These are all of your interactions as an adult and how they go back to those earliest years and how they're formed. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and subscribe for future videos, and let me know how you go. I'll see you next time.